All right, Be Your Elite Podcast, episode 8.
Hi, episode 8.
You got Miss Danielle? Our little couple
Staple.
week Life of the Holes roll up, wrap up. What do we call this? I thought you would have something amazing.
Wrong answer.
The creative one over here. I figured you'd
That's
have
me.
something.
That is totally me. I'm
That's
the
not you?
creative one. No, that is not me.
We also have Speedy Little Turd Nugget with us here.
We do.
He's got a bone, so he's pumped up.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, so what's up, Mom? How's your week?
It was a good week. It was an easy week. A little bit of a recovery week, we can call it.
Taking care of your dead husband?
Yeah. Yep. Barely survived the flu, this one.
I think it was the plague, and a lesser man would be dead.
That's the rumor.
Is that the truth?
That is the rumor.
I've been accused of having the man flu.
No, it was real. It was real. It was not made up.
Yeah, that shit sucks.
But no
So-
antibiotics, no doctor visits,
Nope.
just good old,
Immune system?
yeah,
Such a
and
whack-
some
some time off.
natural remedies. Yep.
So what are we talking about today?
I never know. I just show up,
What do
put
you
my
mean you never
headphones
know?
on, smile.
Just look sexy. Is that what that was? You're such a weirdo. I thought we were going to talk about our non-negotiables in the day, in the sense of like the things that we're very mindful of and things that we do every day that is ours together, not necessarily like our individual things. Like I have my baths. Those
Yeah.
are mine. But then,
Yeah.
like there's some things that we do that I think they bleed over. Like this is really good self-care, but we just happen to
together.
be doing it
Yeah.
together.
Which, why not? Yeah, that's a good place to start. Some
Yeah.
of the journey and growth that we've both experienced, we definitely appreciate more of the little things. So just spending.
You're the cliche monster.
I'm not. I don't know. You just totally read that. I was just saying words, and you read it in insert stupid cliche.
Yeah, the little things.
Yeah, but it's true. They're cliche, but they're true. And so just starting our morning a little bit earlier every morning, and by a little bit, I simply mean 20 minutes. So, 25.
It's not
15
45.
minutes earlier?
I thought it was 45 when you
No.
yelled at me that one day.
No. So
In our
15 minutes of
over-exaggeration.
movement, 10 minutes of meditation, and then,
So that's one of the newest.
yeah,
What's that? 2-3 weeks now. Probably?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. So we've moved our wake up time from 6 a.m. every day to 5:30.
Yeah.
And then there's like that little couple minute of like,
Right. Get warm clothes on because it's now freezing.
man, relax. Jeez,
So
please.
yeah, we're literally freezing right here talking.
Yeah, I get up, I get my lemon and salt water. First thing, I walk straight out of bed, come in here, and then I go in, use the bathroom. And then I meet you. You're always in the garage first,
I am
moving.
faster.
Do you have any like in your own head like stuff that you're working on in your movement in the morning, or is it just the whole intent? Is it just whatever feels good and right? And
The intent is just if this is the only thing that I've accomplished today, it'll still be a good day. So I don't think about much. I just move, knowing that
you move today.
I moved. Yeah.
Win.
It
You're
is a
starting the
win.
day off with a small victory.
Exactly.
I think that's one thing that people get really wrapped around is like they feel like accomplishments have to be huge. But it's like 10 small victories is a pretty big deal in the day.
Yep.
I say small victories because that's one of those are like our Sears School ism things where they're like
Oh,
just do
Mr. Cliche.
you just well, here we go. But they talk about small victories all the time, where like that's what drives, when you're essentially a POW or you're captive, that's what drives morale, is just having small victories, because they take, when you're, and obviously this is all a made up scenario, but when they take you as a POW for the 3 or 4 days that it happens, I mean, everything's dictated to you. When you get up, how you move, when you eat, da 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 da. And so you find little ways to like resist, and they just call them small victories. So I guess for us in the morning, that's like you're just resisting the fact that life isn't controllable. And we can put all these plans in place thinking the day is going to go
right
X, and it always goes Y.
Or could go Y. It doesn't
or could
always,
go Y. But what I mean is that's just one of those things where you like, for me, I like making this weird connection where it's like this little defiance towards life is going to throw you a shit sandwich, most likely. And this is my small little victory that I can get every day no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just like this little but that's ingrained in me through that. That's my connection to it, I think, in the morning, is it being a little small victory of resistance against the uncontrollable shit that's about to happen once I start my day. Whether that be work or kids or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So for yours, it's more of like a small victory.
I just like
accomplishment.
It is an accomplishment, but it's also it sets the tone for my day. And that's important for me.
Yeah, but you're like a super rhythm.
I am a super rhythmic person.
Like you do the same shit every day. It drives me nuts.
I like it.
But
that's who I am.
I want there to be like a little bit of spontaneity.
Well, that's why you're here.
Is that why I'm here? To disrupt?
But that's my nature. I am happy with rhythm.
Yeah, but I think that's one of those things where like the body and emotions by nature like rhythm.
Sure.
So I think spontaneity is like one of those things where like when you say like, oh yeah, he's kind of just the one that always just does stuff. That's not every day. That's just like we kind of get in this like this balance.
I like structure.
Yeah, you like super structured. But like I have structure in my day, but it's not as like 8 a.m. I'm doing this, 9 a.m. I'm doing that. But for you, like you find a lot of peace in like showing up to work at 8, cleaning a patient's teeth from 8 to 8:45, do charts, have another patient at 9 to 9:45. Like it's literally every hour is exactly the same. It's like new patient, chart, clean teeth, da da da. And for me, that like even just talking about that stresses me out. Like I need more stimulus, I think, by nature. But that doesn't mean I'm out of rhythm.
We're just different. We're just different. And that's...
Yeah. But I think the point is
that's why we work.
That rhythm and routine is important. Like having your body falling into like, from 5:30 to 6, we move and we do meditation. From 6 to 7, we read, or I read, and then you're making breakfast. And then for me, at 7, I'm making breakfast. And then by 8, I'm normally working on something. At noon, I have like my blocks. So for me, I compartmentalize each one of those little blocks into something. Now, what happens within those probably doesn't have a lot of like structure per se. So like from, 9 to noon, I may be like, okay, I'm going to work on a website. Does that mean I'm writing for the website? Am I doing a video for the website? Am I editing a podcast for the website? I don't know. I just kind of do whatever feels good in that moment, or whatever I'm like creatively stimulated for. And that would drive you bonkers. You would have to be like, Monday I write, Tuesday I podcast, Wednesday I, find photos for X. Like you would probably be a little bit more compartmentalized in that aspect.
For sure.
Structured. Not me. I like to kind of flow with whatever's needed in that moment.
You're definitely more artistic that way.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of those things where, I have more of a creative side and you have more of like an analytical side, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Yep.
Don't say opposites attract.
I didn't.
But you were thinking that.
I was just, no, don't go accusing me of thinking.
So we start our day off together. And I was thinking about this the other day on why I definitively feel different when we don't do that. feel off, unbalanced. But like me and you have that type of relationship where everything's hilarious and we're always laughing about stupid shit, and you're nice to look at in the morning because you're naked.
Not anymore. It's cold.
Yeah,
It got cold quick around here.
So I think starting off with that, like, but that's also important too, because we've had that a couple occasions where like you kind of woke up in a funk and I escalated it to make it even worse than what it actually was. So we're pretty.
That was one time.
No, I know,
we
but
figured out through a series of conversations, like it was just, what's the word I'm looking for? A latent effect of Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really, really late Saturday night, which is not normal for us. And then
but I think
getting older, don't recover as fast.
But I think in that moment, for like as relationships stand, especially in an intimate relationship where you're actually like going to bed and waking up together, I think for me, tone first thing in the morning is super important, because like
Sure.
if the tone's not right, I kind of want to wash the day almost, like just like, oh, this day's just gonna suck, which isn't the truth, but going back to those little like small victories, like waking up and like making a joke about the weather, or laughing, or making out a little bit, even though you refuse to make out with me in the morning, it's still hilarious every morning.
Well, it's just finding the silver lining, if you will. Every day is a new chance to be grateful and make something, even if it's just the littlest things.
Yeah. So gratitude is probably one of your
Yes.
That's your go-to, huh?
Well, yeah.
But I like that though, starting off the day where it's like you set a certain tone and then you just show gratitude for what that tone was. And for us, I think it's always like trying to set it up with some kind of positivity, normally a lot of joy and laughter. There's really not much intent out past this. It's not like we're trying to set a theme for the day. It's not like we're, trying to pump each other up like you're going to kill whatever and crush this. It's just, I think just our energy that we're trying to bounce off each other is just filled with a specific idea of an emotion that we want to evoke that day. And then that filled with gratitude is what, I think is what's keeping us. I think starting off the day in the right direction is probably what's, keeps us fairly stress-free, for lack of better terms. Because I don't want to kill you that much anymore.
It's true.
As I used to.
Well, it's you're so special. It's just being intentional and focusing your energy and just being different. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is just being okay with not having to search out and seek what would be maybe considered a social norm of a successful day. Like we've really just kind of redefined that for what that means for us. And it's very different.
Yeah, we defined it.
Yes.
We didn't there was no magic book we read, or there was no, we definitively sat down and had a lot of conversations and a lot of successes and a lot of failures about how we want to set our day up. And there were things that worked and things that didn't work and things we got rid of and things that
we really understand what matters most. And it was very different. The reality of what matters is hugely different than what we thought it was a year ago.
Yeah, because I think I used to get up and first thing I would do is check emails, check text, make sure everybody else got what they needed instead of what was, essentially in the moment standing right in front of me. I was just completely ignored. And I think you were as quick as you could get clothes on and get your food packed and get in the car to get to the gym to train at 5 a.m. so you could hit training and have enough time to finish it 6:30 so you could be showered so you could be on the road by 7. It was there was no time to actually show any type of gratitude, as it was so structured and so fast and so unintentional at the point that it was detrimental to our own health. which is super weird because you're like, wait, that was unhealthy, was getting up and frantically and panically trying to keep everything
Right.
together just to get to the gym at 5 a.m.,
Right.
which was defeating the whole purpose.
Well, we've just found such a better balance. Aesthetically, maybe we looked like we were pristine, but that
I don't know. I'm a Greek god for crying out loud.
I'm just talking about on the outside.
Oh, man.
We looked extremely healthy.
I can't believe you just called me
But
better
we're
looking back
so
then.
much. I didn't, Mr. Put words in my mouth. I didn't.
Under your passive aggressiveness right now is unbelievable.
Because I'm speaking the truth.
You just hurt my
I'm
feelings.
just saying that aesthetically, then we looked healthy, if you will.
Yeah, the perception of what health actually is.
Exactly. But we're so much healthier now. So much healthier now.
So that's one of the things so we start our day off with a different intention and trying to invoke an emotion instead of accomplishing tasks, almost in a weird way. So that's one thing that we do together every day. We start that off. And there's a lot of little like things in there. We make sure like, again, the lemon water with the probiotic first thing and, getting a good healthy breakfast.
Well, right.
Together.
Meals are still, right. I mean, ultimately, yes, we still have to take care of our vessel. Otherwise, it's all for naught. So, of course, we have to remain physically healthy. But that was the only piece that I was focused on was that piece.
Yeah, you slept like that.
The rest, the living and learning. It's about balance, and the emotional health is so much more valuable. Not to say that physical health is not important, because it absolutely is, but definitely more energy is spent.
Well, you were completely out of balance.
Yeah, totally out of balance,
It was all physical health.
For sure.
Like there was no emotional health for the most part.
So yeah, it's been really, really
do
beautiful.
Do you find yourself struggling with your physical health not looking like it was?
I don't. I mean, if it was such a struggle that I really was unhappy with it, I would definitely not treat myself to as many fun things as I do. And so, short answer is,
your actions.
I'm much happier now that we can go to dinner, and I don't count macros anymore. I'm still healthy, but I just enjoy life more.
Yeah, but you didn't answer the question.
What was the question?
Do you find yourself getting caught in a negative space around that, in the sense that, like, I don't look like I used to, I don't lift as much weight as I used to, I don't
care about the performance part or the
So performance was never the piece for you, it was all aesthetics.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself struggling with that?
Sometimes. I don't like the word struggle. I still relate that to weakness, which is maybe not a good thing, but
it creeps. It creeps in your mind.
Sure.
It fills space.
Right. When I'm putting clothes on from a year ago that maybe are a little tighter than they used to be, it's like, But again, I'm going to go eat my paleo chocolate chip cookie from Casa Costa here in about an hour. So it's not like I care that much.
You're so funny.
No, it's good. The amount that I've gained far surpasses what I've lost, if you want to call it a loss.
I like your air quotations right there.
Well, if you're watching it, you can see it. Otherwise, you just have to hear it through my inflection.
You're so funny to me.
So that's what's most important, is focusing on all of the gains throughout all the growth, and a little bit of loss there, but that's just part of the balance.
So you've just essentially created a little bit of like mindfulness around the sense that, like, in order to reach maximum physical potential isn't necessarily, and that's such a,
For me, no, it was not my
no, but I
pinnacle
mean,
of health.
yeah, and that's one of those things where like we were equating maximum physical potential, and your expression just happened to be competitive CrossFit.
Right.
Um, and you were also doing fitness modeling and some other stuff at that time, but that extreme put you on, essentially farther away from vitality and wellness,
For sure.
for lack of better terms.
Well, absolutely. Well, not even lack of better terms. My blood work looks better now than it has the past 5 years when I was very competitive. Mostly just thyroid function, but I've never had any other issues, but and I just feel better. I feel so much better. So that's what's valuable, other than the fact that I have to go have hip surgery, but that's just the price.
Yeah,
like paying for
price of admission, man.
That's right. That is right.
Wasn't poor programming. You're just built
that
funny.
was not. It was not poor
Your
programming.
genetics. So that's one of those things where, like, just not to go off on like a little side tangent, but like people get wrapped around like, you have to move like this, and a squat should look like that, and you should be able to do this barefoot, and you should. It's like, no, man. Every human body is a little bit different depending on their journey, on how much they've gone, and how much their body's adapted. And it just so happened that your hips are 60% more closed than the average person, which is just a genetic thing.
Yeah.
Which you don't know and you can't identify. And the orthopedic surgeon essentially said that, like, yeah, if CrossFit and full depth squatting under load didn't accelerate it over this past 5 years, bicycling and hiking eventually would have caught it.
Yeah,
when you
I
were
would have
50
been
or 60,
I would have
so
been facing the same issue. I just accelerated it tremendously with sport. But
so sometimes it's just bad luck.
That's true.
Interesting little side note there that, like, there is no. So it drives me nuts when I see people trying to compartmentalize, like, well, you have to do it this way and you should do it that way. It's like, no, man. There's too many variables in the human body and the human condition and the human emotions to say this is what it looks like for everybody.
Yep.
But so we do that, and then we right around 6 you shower, and then I'm in the bath normally reading. Or what I try to do is find like a little video or little article, and I'll either like read to you while you're getting ready, or we'll listen to a podcast, and it's always like it's always not thought provoking. It's always positive centric.
Yeah.
It's just always trying to like kind of continuing to layer on top of that. Like we want to start off with a lot of joy and laughter first thing, and then we want to compile that with some kind of uplifting story, or some kind of we don't want it to be thought provoking. We don't want it to be like some kind of ideas of something where our brains have to move more than just filling the space with positivity. And that's pretty much about it. So that's what our morning looks like together. So there's a lot of like self-care and self-help and self-love going on there, and we just so happen to be doing it together. And if I'm out of town, you still do that exact same thing, and it doesn't look any different for most of us. But and then I come out and we make coffee together about 6:30ish, and then I give you a ride to work at 7. And the whole time I have to fight your hands off me, and you're always trying to undress me, and it's almost caused a couple of car wrecks. It's out of control. And then
so crazy.
I get you into the parking lot at work, and then I have to beat you off again with a stick to get you to go out the door.
So true.
So that leads me to one of the other things that is one of our, like, I don't want to say foundations or cornerstones, but it's something I was thinking about the other day, that I think we probably flirt more than most couples.
Well, let's give credit where credit is due, and you definitely keep that spark in our relationship.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, I certainly love our relationship, but you are the one that definitely keeps that in the forefront.
Flirting?
Yeah.
You wouldn't flirt with me if I didn't flirt with you?
I didn't say that, but you definitely.
I think you would now.
are,
A little.
well, for sure.
It's become a little bit more mindful practice for you, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but that's just just who you are.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things where, like, I think originally when I used to flirt like that a lot, that I was looking for attention in return. So I don't know that my intentions were the best. I think I was trying to, like, man, is she actually really like me? Is she still physically attracted to me? So I think I was always kind of fishing in my own insecurities. And now I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you, or, you know,
That's interesting.
I'd like to
That's
grab
how
that
I've
booty.
that's how I have always perceived it.
No,
But
but
that's interesting that you have a different viewpoint on it.
Well, I think that's the front of it, is that, like, those are things I do think about you, but I'm also, I think a good driving factor to that originally was that I was looking for a response, and I wasn't really getting it, in some of our early communication days. So I think that's just one of the things that I want to acknowledge, that, like, with the love languages, like, yours isn't words of affirmation, and it isn't physical touch and those kind of things. I think it's slowly starting to go that way a little bit. And I think that's one thing that, like, people have their love languages, but I think as they evolve as human beings, like, their priorities and their values may change a little bit.
For sure.
I think that may change.
That's just all kind of associated with the same terminology, growth mindset. Like, you're always going to be changing.
But that's one thing I changed about myself, was that I was, in my own insecurities, was, like, almost crying for attention, because I wanted to feel wanted through words and through touch and some other things, and I wasn't getting that. I was craving it so bad that I was, like, trying to force feed it.
Well, you were speaking your love language,
sure.
expecting that I was going to speak it back, and I just wasn't there. But
that's one of those things that we've acknowledged in ourselves now, where it's like cooking dinner, for instance. Now, like, we do that together, even though for me it's not. Acts of service isn't like.
No.
Like, I don't feel loved because you brought me dinner. I feel loved because you brought me dinner and then made out with me afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird
right.
It's such a weird thing. But now I understand that, like,
those things are important to me.
They're important to you, and if I come
my
in
language,
and like, even if I just make the salad, or I whatever, that, like, it's then in return you're like, it frees up energy for you to speak my language then, which was what I was totally missing. It's like, if you're putting 100% of your language into somebody that doesn't speak that language, you're not going to get anything in return.
Right.
But if you put 50% of your language into something and 50% of their language into something, then you create a closed loop between the two of you, where you're just speaking constantly with each other's language around a specific thing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people miss.
Well, yeah, the communication is an art. It is not easy. And while I may be speaking perfectly clearly, it does not come across as intended, but that's just simply because I speak for what I know, and that doesn't always equate to what was intended.
You're such a weirdo.
But that's a big piece of it, is understanding that it takes a lot of work. And it's not to say that relationships take work. I'm not going to use that cliche, but communication is something that has to be actively worked on.
So I think that's something that we're just very mindful of, is that, our languages, we just make sure that we're speaking them all day, every day.
Yeah, consistency.
Consistently throughout the day. It's not like, 10 a.m. I got to shoot a little.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. No.
So, and ours range from, like, deep, intimate. This is, I think that's one of the things that, like, guys get really, like, weird about, that if you're feeling like a specific idea or emotion, like, you should just say that shit.
Yeah.
Like, you should just type it out somewhere and send it in a text and just let them know, like, here's where I'm at with you right now. And a lot of it's uncomfortable for a lot of guys. I mean, normally the times where, like, and obviously I'm super emotional dude. Like, when I'm typing these things out, I'm, like, bawling my eyes out. But I think a lot of guys, there's so many unspoken words between people, and it's like, you may run out of an opportunity to say shit that you had every opportunity to do it. There's no reason not to. There's really zero reason to not just be like, this is what you mean to me right now, in my words, regardless of how fucked up grammar they are, whatever, because
Right.
that's what mine normally look like. But
Well, and it's sadly a lot of times it's just assumed like I'm still married to you. We still
Yeah.
live together, so you
slept in the
should
same
know.
we slept in the same bed last night. We're in
Right.
love.
We ate dinner together. Like, what more do you need?
Hmm.
So it just kind of circles back to intent and being intentional.
Yeah.
And
Well, we have those, and then we have dirty gifts.
yeah,
That's a little tip right now that we'll send out. That your favorite intimate positions, like just copy and paste those gifts and send them back and forth to each other. Can't wait till you get home tonight. Like, kind of keep that. Like, you got to stoke the fire. I think, for lack of better terms. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta feed it oxygen. You gotta breathe life into that thing, and
yep. Keep it fun.
yeah. So that's one, because I'm a visual person. So like typing out, I can't wait to get you missionary tonight, isn't very super funny. So that's one thing we do all day, and then I think that's probably our pretty non-negotiable, and then
Exercise.
we
Make
come home
dinner.
at night, then we exercise together, and that's 3 to 4 times a week. We probably exercise because there's a difference between movement and exercise. So we spend that time together. Danielle has her own shit, and I have my own shit, and then we cook dinner together every day. Now there are times where I'm like, I'm just fucking tired, and I don't want to do anything, and I'll just go in the living room and just sit. And I think that, it would probably be better if I like came in and was like, hey, I'm exhausted today. Do you have dinner? Which I think I've been trying to be a little bit more mindful of, and at least like shoot out a text before you even get home that's like, hey, I'm vegging on the couch tonight. I don't feel like doing shit. And I think that's kind of like that verbal cue of like, where I'm letting you know instead of just letting you just kind of go about your business. And then I've at least verbalized to you, like, I don't feel like doing anything. And if you don't feel like doing anything, then I guess we're not eating dinner tonight. But someone's got to pick up the load. But I think that's one of those things where 95% of the time we're probably cooking to get dinner together now.
Right. But,
so we quit.
But let's make sure
meals.
but we eat very simply.
Yeah.
It's meat, it's vegetables, it's a little bit of fat. Like there's nothing beautiful. I mean, it's always delicious, but it doesn't have to be this 2-hour ordeal.
Yeah, we take maybe by the time we start and finish, it's 30, 40 minutes, and we're all done. Family's all fed. And
I think that's one thing that we have really been mindful of in all the years that we've been doing this thing is nutrition and food and how easy it can be.
Yeah, well, and the flip side of that is like I think we go against that conventional thing of like, well, if you're not prepped for the week, you're setting yourself up for failure. And we're like, no, I don't. I think with that mentality, you're just creating an excuse for people to fail. Because even though we don't have any food prepped, like we cook all our meals in the moment minus lunch.
Yeah.
Like you have lunch prepared, obviously, because you're at work.
Right. It's just leftovers from dinner the night before.
But breakfast and dinner are all made in the moment when it's time to eat. And so that's one of those things where you got to look at your own lifestyle and your own relationship and like what works for us. Are we the type of people that need that ready to go all week? So we don't just say, fuck it, I'm tired and stray. Or do you just show a little bit of discipline and see the intangibles of making dinner together?
Well,
having your phone shut down, the TV not on.
But let's circle back to the importance of creating that space.
Mm-hmm.
So when our lives were jam-packed and we were maybe not, when we were busier with the gym, we did not have time. I had to prep meals on Sundays and Thursdays. We usually made other prep day, but because otherwise it would, it would not,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to even 30 minutes. I didn't have that time in the evening.
Yeah, but I would also argue that we could have made it a priority. And I think that's something that needs to be at least acknowledged.
True.
That like I could have fucking left every day at 5 and
Right.
came home.
But we chose to not. And
Yeah, we
you're
chose
right.
not to.
We could have definitely.
But I want to acknowledge that, like, not making an excuse on why we didn't, but just understanding, well, the reason we didn't is because we just didn't want to. We really didn't want to. And so I think there's a lot of people that maybe listen to this right now that, like, if there's, if you're lacking intimacy and you're lacking communication and you're lacking this and you're lacking that, it's because you don't want to create those spaces. You don't want to change it and make it a priority. Your actions are dictating exactly what's going on.
Sure.
There's a reason me and you are so connected and so mindful. It's because we want it to be.
Right.
And we make a conscious effort to make sure all of our spaces are successful and in line to create all of those things, to have balance around all of them. Before, we wanted to be in the gym doing more fitness. We wanted to be around all those people. And whether we were creating the pressures of, like, well, I'm supposed to be here because I'm a business owner, and I'm supposed to be there because I'm supporting my husband, without all of those pressures, because even if those are the pressure, well, I was there because I'm a business owner and that's what a business owner is supposed to do. It's like, no, you just fucking created that whole entire sentence.
Yeah.
Like, you created that. You own this place. People are going to fault you because you went home to have dinner with your family.
Yeah.
What type of people are you associating with?
Right.
Who are you surrounded by?
Yeah, we definitely.
So, I think we created that life in our own heads. We created all those own illusions around what we thought we were supposed to be doing.
What was important in
and
order
it wasn't good for us.
No.
At all. But how do you learn the lesson unless you do that?
True.
I guess you listen to a podcast where there's two people that are like, don't do that because you're going to fuck it up really bad. But so we have that time together, and then we I don't want to say we force our kids, but we encourage them to come out and make dinner with us and have dinner. Yeah. But we have a teenager now, so he drives and he works. And
he's around when he can be, but at least with her, her she's so much younger, she at least gets to experience more time together at home at night, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she's at that age too, where she's like, emotions are starting to flood. She's 13 now, getting ready to be 13.
Almost 13.
So things are probably changing for her. So I think for her to, like, just be in her own space and kind of acknowledging that for what it is, and seeing her parents healthy together is probably good.
Yep.
That's another thing that I talk with people about. They're like, well, I have to, my kids come first and my kids come that. And that's one thing that me and you have talked about a lot is, like, no, I come first and then you come first, and then everything else falls underneath that in a pecking order and a structure in a way. Because, our idea is that if I'm not functioning optimally, then our relationship isn't functioning optimally. And if our relationship isn't functioning optimally, neither is our parenting.
Right.
Neither is our work structure. And so again, with that going back that, like, my kids are my priority, my work's my priority, is taking up all those times and and you're not taking care of yourself. And then you're not, that relationship's waning on you because you're putting other things in the priority of it, which is just causing that to suffer. I think just restructuring where your energy is being put. And I think that's one thing we're really mindful about now is, like, take care of ourselves first. This is where I'm feeling. This is how I need to fix that. I need your help with this, so we can strengthen our own relationship, because everything else sits underneath that blanket.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, and it's just really for most people that are either starting their own journey or whatever, it's just understanding the vocabulary. Like, just because we're prioritizing ourselves doesn't mean, like, in a conventional way of thinking, let's just use that word, conventional. Mm-hmm. People are going to think that sounds really selfish, but it's not. Like, in order for me to be the best hygienist that I can be in the day, I need to have slept my 8 hours. I need to have eaten my breakfast. I need to have meditated. I need to be the healthiest
You need the relationships that you value to be healthy.
Absolutely.
You need your parents to be, or you need your kids to be, functioning at school without a whole
So
lot
prioritizing ourselves, it's not in a selfish way. I don't want it to sound negative. This is where I'm
that's the
like,
that's
this
the
is where I struggle
default, and
to.
this is how people create their own justification in their own selves
Right. But
to
that's what I'm
continue their own
saying.
behavior.
Right. They just need to understand that by prioritizing ourselves, we are indeed really, really highly prioritizing all of our other relationships too, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not explaining that very well, but you know what I mean.
It's almost unselfish in the sense that
Right.
like you're looking for a way to give more to everybody else, and the best way to give to everybody else is to be your optimal self.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is asked backwards, because most people think that like you're supposed to destroy yourself and at the detriment
Yeah.
of yourself to give to everybody else,
Right.
which means you're giving particles of yourself. You're not even be
Yeah.
able to give your full self because you don't even know who you are.
True.
So if you're like, well, that sounds selfish, it's like, well, fuck it, then be selfish. Because I promise you, the outcome of being selfish, if that's what you want to label it,
Right.
which is fine by me, I don't really care, is that everybody else is going to benefit from your selfishness.
True.
Now, there is a difference between selfishness of like, I'm going to do things that emotionally fuck with other people.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it felt good for me in this moment. That's a difference between that selfishness and the sense that like, well, I'm going to sleep 8 hours and I'm going to eat high quality food and I'm not going to go out with my girlfriends on Friday night because I have a really big project due on Monday at work and I want to have my shit together. Like, that's not selfish. That was just you taking care of what you needed in that moment in order to give to all the things that you actually really prioritize. So those are things that, obviously took us a long time to really kind of step back and create some honesty within ourselves of like,
for sure,
where am I giving at the detriment? And part of that is, I had a big long conversation with somebody today about the arrogance and the ego and the pride that lives within ourselves of like, whether it's like, the chip on your shoulder of like, oh, you say I can't take on more, well, I'll take on more.
Yeah.
I know what's best for that person, so now I'm going to help them fix that, even though that relationship may not be. I'm going to fix them now.
Right.
Like, they're toxic to my life, but you know what? I can fix them. Man, that's your own ego causing you to stay in just toxic relationships and toxic environments and dumping energy into places that like it's not good for your own soul, and your own ego is causing you to act in that own way because you just can't be like, man, that's not good for me.
Yep.
But then there is the people that hold on to a lot of guilt around it. Where like, well, I feel bad because I'm going to hurt them, and I feel bad because they're my mom and she gave me all this stuff and I owe her this thing. There's a difference between you wanting to fix shit or, oh, I'm going to do that because you tell me I can't, and then the guilt aspect. So you have, ego and arrogance, and then you have, guilt and shame. And I think that those are things that we don't carry anywhere in our lives anymore because It was just, we lived like that for years and years and years, and wasn't good for any of us. And all of those relationships that we had, I mean, people, a lot of them fell apart anyways because they were so
superficial.
Yeah, superficial and unauthentic anyways. So, that's a hard conversation for a lot of people to have, that like, is it your guilt or is it your ego that's causing you to make decisions?
Yeah.
And like for you to actually sit back and peel back some of those layers is a space nobody wants to be in.
Well, it's an important space though that you have to allow yourself to go through, and just trust that as you're going through that, the relationships that remain when you've kind of cleared through all the cobwebs and try to sort out your own shit. It's, back to the energy, whatever energy you're putting out. If you're getting it back, then you know that that's the relationship that still serves you.
Yeah, they adding. It's, you're just bouncing good energy back and forth off each other.
Yeah. And so there's nothing wrong with appreciating people for whatever they've added to your life, but that doesn't mean they always have to be a a constant piece if it's
Yeah, it's one of those things again that's become, part of our daily mindfulness. Like this whole podcast is almost turning into like, what are the things that we're mindful of daily? Like, what are the ones that, right now we really focus on because we don't want to create some kind of like imbalance or like disrupt the frequencies around specific things. And that's one of them. We always make sure that we're not doing anything based on, our ego, and we're not doing anything because we feel guilt associated with the relationships that we're in together. And so now, and that's created a very freeing space between the two of us, because now I can always say what's on my mind and know I'm not going to get judged. I'm not going to get attacked. There's no defensiveness around it. There's no shame and embarrassment around, desires and fantasies in the bedroom or whatever the case may be. So for us to, that's a big mindfulness for us together as a couple that we keep a very, very close eye on.
Yeah.
So exercise, we eat dinner, and then we'll normally kind of sit down and, watch a little bit of TV. It's 50-50 between TV and playing music normally.
Yeah. Or when it's not freezing outside, sitting on the back patio and reading, or just chatting with the kids.
That's one thing I think we do a couple times a week too, where we bring our kids in, whether it be one-on-one and we try to get them to like open up emotionally.
Yeah.
It's not the like, hey, how was school? Is there anything? It's like, no, what's bothering you? You doing okay? Is there anything you want to get off your chest? Is there whatever? And it doesn't happen a lot where they like open up, but they know there's a space there.
Yeah.
They know it's at least created. They know it's safe. I've had a couple of times where, I know Tristan gravitates more towards you. He's our son. And then my daughter gravitates more towards me. So I think she's opened up and got emotional and cried about specific things more to me than she has to you. And I think vice versa for Tristan.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't have any kind of like,
no, it's
the father-son relationship needs to be better. So I'm like in some kind of frantic that like my son feels a deeper connection to be able to open up more to his mom than he does his dad. That's not.
No.
It's something that I keep an eye on. I want to make sure that he understands that like he can tell me anything, and he does. And there's certain things that he can just like, we've had a lot of conversations about a lot of different things, but I think when it comes down to full vulnerability, he just doesn't feel comfortable with, opening up like that to me yet. For whatever reason, I don't know that it can't be me because I fucking cry all the time. So. I don't know. Who knows what that is, but that's another thing that we try to do daily is at least have some kind of time frame or space in an area where we allow our kids to get something off their chest.
Yeah.
And then in return, we do that with each other every night.
Yeah.
Where we have a kind of a routine where we go in about 8:30ish, 8:30 to 9.
Yeah.
I get in the bath again. A little bit of lavender oil. I try to read before I go to bed. We turn all of our phones off, put them on airplane mode around 8 to 8:30. And then I read for a bit. And you normally read in bed. Sometimes you get in the bath with me to warm up. And then we just sit there, and sometimes we laugh, and sometimes we cry, and sometimes I don't want to say argue, but we do. We just get it out of the way. And
yeah, but we try to not like carry that into like right before bed though.
No,
like
for
if there's
sure,
something pressing that's going to be a little bit more serious, that's not usually the time that we would address that.
It's 99% of the time it's normally positive.
Yeah, for sure.
But there are times
Which
where like
important.
we're still carrying on something from the morning or the midday or whatever.
Right.
But that's normally around. So we set a timer. We have a sun timer. We set that for about an hour. And then that's where
just wind down.
Read, chat, bathe, mommy, daddy time.
And then out.
That normally lasts
Got to get 8 hours of sleep.
That lasts
7.5.
4 or 5 hours. And then that's every night.
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing. I think we've had a lot of couples that have reached out to us and like they always want to know that aspect of our life. Like, what does your intimacy look like? How is your guys' communication around that? How many times a week are you guys having sex? And I think everybody's trying to create some kind of standard. Like, this is what it's supposed to be. You guys have this amazing relationship, and we see you guys together, and the energy is always crazy good. You guys are always laughing and da 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 da. And you guys are having sex every night. That's got to be the answer. Like, no, that's not the answer. It's just.
Well, it's what works for us, and so we just know that, and why change it if it works.
But I also think intimacy is one of those things where it's a snowball effect where like one time a week, as long as it's like a mindful practice, turns into two, and then two turns into three, and the more you kind of create a habit and a rhythm and a routine, and you start to attach a lot of those positive benefits of it, better sleep, better emotions, deeper connection with, the individual you're with. If you're actually having an open conversation about fantasies, desires, and all the stuff that's happening in the bedroom, and then layering on that's happening more times in the week, and then more times than you create this like kind of vulnerability between the two of you, because there's a lot of like sexual situations that are embarrassing for a lot of people to just talk about in general. And if you can clear the air in the bedroom with somebody and then be comfortable in your own skin and comfortable together and be able to laugh and joke and, have those great physical, intimate connections, then that bleeds over into a lot of other areas in life. At least that's how it works for us.
Right. But it always just circles back to just being able to talk about anything. Mm-hmm. It's just so important. And that's one of the main things that we've learned is that piece especially. You just have to be able to have a safe space to communicate whatever it is.
Well, yeah, and then I think when we there was like that initial like, whoa, what? You're into that? Oh, wait, you're into that? And we kind of like had this bouncing off. Then it was like, it got our own brains formulating what else is unknown in the rest of our life.
Right.
So that like weird embarrassment of like, I like this and you like that. And we kind of laughed and chuckled about it. Maybe we implemented some things and took out some other things. Then it allowed us like later on, like, hey, you know what I was thinking the other night when we had those conversations about X? I was thinking, was there any other thing around this? It allowed us to get rid of all that like shame and embarrassment and unknowns within ourselves everywhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of our communication things, our parenting things, the way we talk to our kids, because then it started to open up things that like, hey, I don't, when you talk to our kids in this fashion around these specific things, to me, it feels like you're picking on X, Y, and Z. I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying this is a thing. And then instead of you getting like super defensive, like, well, the reason I did that was because of this, you actually took it as feedback and was like, oh, yeah, I could see how I might make the kids feel like that. Or I could see that from you sitting backwards and now looking at that, it just created this like really amazing communication piece that, if we were willing to divulge our deepest and darkest desires, all the other stuff just came really easy then. It just seemed less embarrassing and less shameful. So I'm not telling everybody to go out and like, tell your wife or your wife sit down with your husband and tell him that you're into 50 Shades of Grey and you need a red room now. I'm not saying that's the shit that's going to fix your marriage, but it could, if that's the space that you want to start, that you guys don't have intimacy or physical connection problems, but there's something missing somewhere else. Maybe that's a space where you go in and create a whole bunch of honesty and open communication, and then that will in return do that in other aspects of your life. So and then vice versa, maybe it's you start in the other areas because that's where you guys are really strong in communication, you've never had any issues, and there's some unknown stuff there, and then that may bleed into the bedroom. Because I don't know, we had this weird conversation. It's like if there's no intimacy, you guys are just roommates essentially. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that.
Right.
There's a
ton for a lot of people that literally is all that they need
all
out of their relationship.
Yeah.
And that works for them, and that's great.
So again, going back to the point that like you don't have to have sex every day in order for your marriage to be
Mm-mm.
perfect. It's not what we're saying. But
Nope.
if you don't know all the aspects around, your significant other in and around intimacy, then I think that's probably, I don't want to say an issue, but definitely a place to look into.
Yeah.
So those are things that are really non-negotiable for us. Those are stuff that, we wake up our day, we have those intentions around movement and meditation and what we're trying to get out of those. We want to start our day with joy and gratitude first and foremost.
Yep. Absolutely.
We want to layer on with another perspective of ideas, whether it be some reading or an article or another video that just kind of compiles on top of that. We make sure that we acknowledge our thoughts about each other throughout the day. That's a daily practice. And then we make sure that we exercise together and essentially honoring our body, whether it comes to food and our movement. And we sort of unconsciously hold each other accountable
Yeah,
in that
for sure.
aspect.
Absolutely.
And then we've created a space in our other relationships where everybody knows that like this is an open, safe, non-judgmental space for you to just say whatever, and we have that space for ourselves. We also have that for all the other relationships that we're in, whether that be our kids or our friends or whatever. And then we wind down exactly the same at night, and then
Yep.
we connect, our last little closing piece, and then the last thing we do is more times than not, I just lean over and I just say, "Tell me something good."
Yep.
And normally it's lame. It's never anything amazing. I love you? What a weird question. Normally trying to get something a little bit deeper about that. And you normally start opening up about something you're grateful for that day or something that happened.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be about us. Sometimes you tell me stories about some cute old couple that you cleaned their teeth and they were hilarious and you hope we're like that when we're older or something.
Yeah.
But, and then you fall asleep in about 3 seconds and I lay there.
I'm trying to not have Alzheimer's disease. Okay.
I know. Well, hopefully that, maybe people are listening to this thinking that there was going to be like
something magical,
earth-shattering, groundbreaking.
No,
I will promise
just intent.
Yeah, the
Being intentional.
simpler you can make that between the two of you, the easier it gets. I don't think that we create a lot of the complexities of life.
Yeah.
Like literally create it. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that's uncontrollable that we can't. That there's just no way to like. You can mitigate some of the stuff, but you just can't get away from certain things. But a lot of that we create that to start making all kinds of weird justifications and explanations and excuses in our own head on why certain things may be going a certain way, because we're always looking for answers on why things are the way they are, and we never accept the fact that we created it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
And that's one thing that I think we sleep really well at night, knowing that every day that we've created, we did that and we started it off a specific way and we led with a really good intention throughout the day and we kept it consistent and we closed it off every day exactly the same. We just kept it consistent, and there's always 3 aspects in there that are the body, the mind, and the soul, and we have some sort of practice every day that's consistent.
Yeah.
We exercise the mind and we're in search for knowledge through reading and blogs and videos. We honor our body every day by what we put into it and how we move it and how we exercise it and stress it. And then we connect emotionally and, consistently throughout the day. And we have a lot of good intentions around that, to just feed our souls internally. And if you find ways to feed those that work for you in those 3 aspects, I think you'll be okay. I think you're going to be okay anyways. So hopefully we gave you some little small tips in there, and maybe think me and Danielle are just full of shit, and there's no way it's that easy.
It takes work. It's not, but then once you kind of have that shift of energy, it's like so easy. It becomes effortless. Initially,
it creates momentum.
Yeah.
And
But initially,
momentum.
you know, anytime you go against the grain or what you've adopted as life as an adult, you know, that I think that's just now that we see things differently and we are creating our lives, not just letting our lives kind of lead us a certain direction.
Yeah, well, it goes back to
so
that, to like,
easier.
life isn't happening to you, it's happening
Absolutely.
for you. And so,
yeah,
you know, that's if you find yourself like
just miserable, change it.
Yeah, it sounds so fucking easy, but
no, it's not. It was a really hard year, but just know that it's really great on the other end. It's great.
For sure. Well, thanks for joining me, bro.
Thanks for having me.
I don't like when you get all super dressed up for these things, looking all gorgeous and shit.
You're so crazy.
It drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
I'm over here looking like a ragged homeless guy.
No, you're not. We were wearing the same thing.
You got a scarf and shit?
This is part of the shirt, actually.
All right, guys, we gotta go. I'm about to break this shit.
Whatever.
Be Really Podcast. See you next time.